They basically immediately this morning to restrict Australian users and publishers from displaying news content, and it says that that's because the proposed law fundamentally misunderstands the relationship between our platform and publishers who use it to share news content. They say that it's left them facing a stark choice: an attempt to comply with the law that ignores the reality of this relationship, or stop allowing news content on our services in Australia. And with a heavy heart, we are choosing the latter. So, Joe, this decision applies to local and international news content. Facebook argues that it's different to Google. It says that publishers willingly choose to post news on Facebook, and for that reason it allows them to sell subscriptions, grow their audiences and increase their advertising revenue. And Facebook argues that news only makes up about 4% of the content that appears in people's news feeds.
But nor is the government adamant it's pressing ahead with this bargaining code?
Yes, at this stage the government says that it still intends to have this legislation passed through the Parliament. The government says that Facebook's decision today could see a rise in more unreliable information on its platform. This morning, the Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, he spoke directly to Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. He says that that conversation was constructive and Facebook still has a number of issues with the code. Take a listen to what the Treasurer had to say.
It was a very constructive discussion. The government remains committed to the code. We've agreed to continue our conversation to find a pathway forward. He raised a few issues. They have been negotiating in good faith up to this point with the Australian media businesses, and they've been making progress. Obviously, we welcome today's announcement too about Google and News Limited off the back of Google and Channel 7 and the reports around Google and Channel 9. So it's been progressing very well with Google. Facebook had also been in very positive discussions and constructive discussions. Obviously, today we've seen their announcement. I spoke to Mr. Zuckerberg, and we'll see where it goes from here.
The Communications Minister, Paul Fletcher, says that the government will still push ahead with legislation. He's urging Facebook to consider the implications of its decision. Take a listen.
Facebook needs to think very carefully about what this means for its reputation and standing. They're effectively saying on our platform there will not be any information from organisations which employ paid journalists, which have fact-checking processes, which have editorial policies. They're effectively saying any information that is available on our site does not come from these reliable sources.
Now, Labor up until this point has been supportive of the media code. However, this morning it refused to guarantee support for it in the Senate. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. The opposition is now calling on the government to explain how it will resolve this dispute. We heard earlier from the Shadow Communications Minister, Michelle Rowland. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Make no mistake, the impact of the decision by Facebook today, which has been effective immediately, is profound. It is profound for Australian consumers, businesses, and also media outlets. It is incumbent on the government to explain clearly, precisely, and urgently what is going on and what the impact will be. And not only that, what it intends to do about it.
And what have the media companies been saying?
Well, Joe, we've heard from a number of news organisations that have been affected by this decision, including the ABC. ABC's Managing Director, David Anderson, says that despite issues including the COVID-19 pandemic, Facebook has today removed important and credible news and information from its Australian platform, and that the ABC will continue its discussions with Facebook following today's development. We've also had a statement from a spokesperson from Nine. Now, Nine has reportedly struck a deal with Google, and they say that it's unfortunate that Facebook has taken this step. They say nobody benefits from this decision, and Facebook will now become a platform for misinformation misinformation to rapidly spread without balance, and this action further proves their monopoly position and unreasonable behaviour. Joe, we have been talking today about a number of other Facebook sites or Facebook pages being affected by Facebook's decision today. We have a statement from Facebook with regards to that. They say government pages should not have been impacted by today's announcement, although they say the law does not provide clear guidance on the definition of what is considered news content. So they have taken a broad definition in order to respect the law as drafted, they say. However, Facebook says they will reverse any pages that have been inadvertently affected by today's announcement. Joe?
Yeah, well, Noah, hopefully that happens quickly, because there are really important websites that have been caught up in this, including domestic violence websites and the Bureau of Meteorology. So yeah, last time I checked, those Facebook pages still had no posts on them, but there were still links on the left-hand side of the page to the actual website. So that's our advice to people at the moment. If you're going to those websites, you need that important information, go to the actual website for the organisation yourself, or if you're on that Facebook page, you can still click on the link for that web on the corner. Okay, Noah Hayter reporting there from Canberra.
Thanks, Joe.
Reporter Alexia Atwood asked some Sydney commuters this morning what they
live, otherwise we'll just be fed rubbish or fake news, as someone famous once said. But no, they need to pay for it.
I think it's a bit stupid. I don't understand why they would want to cut off our news articles. Like, that's how I actually go to find out news, because it's usually like very up to date on social media. So I'm like, okay, I just won't use Facebook anymore. Yeah, I probably won't need it, because that's actually how I just check the news. So other than that, yeah.
But if the government doesn't stand up, then we don't have a chance anyway. So.
And do you think it's a good thing that the government is standing up to protect clients on Facebook?
They have to. They've got no integrity if they don't.
I think what Facebook is doing is disgraceful. I think it shows the might of the tech giants, their selfishness. I think it's a bullying tactic, and so that's the bad news. But the good news is that it will open up opportunities for other Australian providers, because we need our media and our journalists to be looked after. So come on, Australia, let's get behind a new provider.
I think Facebook needs to pay, or it needs to be more responsible about the news content that it uses. I think it's a bit difficult to say that they can't share any news though. It's a really complicated issue.